The story.
In February 2012, Oren was diagnosed with stage 4 with colon cancer, which had metastasized to his liver and his lungs. So that was a huge shock for us. It's not something we ever thought we'd ever have to deal with or ever have in our lives. And the biggest shock to us was that the doctors actually said he had had it for about 5 years already.
G'day, I'm Jimmy Colefax. Welcome to The Story. Well, a challenging one today as we hear Angela Engelbrecht share her life journey. Angela is originally from the UK and married her husband Oren in South Africa. She was interviewed by Karen Hunt shortly after they moved to Australia for treatment for Oren's cancer. Incidentally, Angela and Karen have gone on to become really good friends since this interview, and we'll have an update for you at the end of their chat.
Let's go back to the early years of your own personal journey. Born in England, which part?
I was born in Manchester in a little town called Wythenshawe.
And what did your family look like and what was your childhood like?
Well, when I was 2, we actually moved to South Africa for the first time. We kind of went back and forth for a few years, like all good immigrants, can't decide. And I have a brother and a sister that are a lot older than me. My sister is 9 years and my brother's 7 years older than me. So I kind of was brought up more as a single child. Although we were within a family, we weren't churchgoers. My parents never took us to church. We never had Sunday school. We never had any of that kind of religious upbringing.
So your memory of England as such isn't very strong?
I was very young when we left England, yes, but I went back quite a lot. We went back every year, sometimes for 3-4 months at a time. So I have quite a good memory of England and I know it quite well. My whole family's in England.
So they're all still there now?
Yes, they're all still there.
So would you say that South Africa is more your home?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because I did my schooling there. A big part of my career and my life was there. But for 44 years I was in South Africa.
So as a child then, in South Africa, what were you good at? What did you love and what did you hope to do one day when you left school?
I loved horse riding. I used to do a lot of show jumping. That was my big hobby in life. Horse riding took up 6 days a week. The only day I'd never rode was a Monday, because Monday was when the stables were closed and there was the rest day for the horses. So I did that all the time. The only other thing I did, in school I did high jump. I loved high jump. Yeah, that was about it. I didn't do anything else.
So were you sporty besides the high jump?
No. Hated running, was never good at it, was terrible at swimming. So I wasn't really a sporty person at all. I did high jump and I did long jump and that was about it.
So then what led you as a young woman in your mid-20s then to go to uni and to study accounting and get into that area?
I always wanted to continue studying. I didn't care actually what it was because I felt as long as I study, my brain will always be active. And I started working at a company where I met Oren, my husband. I was actually just working as a contractor there in their creditors department. I was helping out a friend of mine that needed help in that division, and I was actually working from home. I wasn't even, working there permanently, and she offered me a position in the company, and I started working there, and Oren was also working in the same company. He was actually the financial manager at that stage. I was actually very unhappy in this company, and I phoned Oren one day, and he actually suggested to me, why don't I start an accounting firm? He had, on the sideline, had 1 or 2 clients already, and he said, I can take over those and start this accounting firm. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't start my own business. And then I asked him, if I do this, would you be able to then sign off the accounts for me? Because with me not being qualified, I still had another 3 years of studying to do before I'd be a qualified accountant. And he said to me, well, you know what, do it and I will draw the financials up for you, he said, and I'll help you where I can. And, so I at least had someone qualified. And that's what I just resigned and started doing. Cut a long story short, a year later, Oren and I were liaising business-wise for quite a few months. And then he left the company where we used to jointly work and he started working in another company. And we actually we saw each other so much, but he was working during the day and I was, but then I needed to see him at night to kind of cover the queries that I didn't know and the things I didn't know and financials that had to be done and income tax returns that had to be done. So he was working at night. So what was happening is we were spending up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning working together. I didn't have time to date anyone else and neither did he. So we kind of just said one day, why don't we start dating? It was very awkward in the beginning, but we were extremely comfortable together. We were actually best friends. So a year later, he joined me in the business.
Did you have any comprehension then of the God factor in this situation?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. Yeah, I always prayed. I've always believed in Jesus. He's kind of always been there, but has never been a major factor in my life. I would never say, before I make this decision, let me pray about it, or let me ask God and kind of wait for an answer. That was never part of how my life was. Arend was a lot more religious, if I can say, than what I was. So we kind of came from two total opposites from a religious point of view. In fact, it was funny because Arend actually started telling me Bible stories because I actually didn't know very many at all. And in South Africa, religion is not in schools, which I think that's why I'm so grateful where my kids are, is that Christ is a big part of the school. And for me now, that is hugely important because I kind of know, growing up not having God in my life and not really knowing that is really where I could turn to when times were bad. And also when times are good. It's not just that, but I'm trying to give it to my kids now because I realize how important it is to know that God is there and Jesus is there. And I still am very green as far as Jesus is concerned. I can't quote you quotes in the Bible. I'm learning a lot of stories, but I know my relationship and my walk with him. But it hasn't been this great Christian walk from childhood, not at all. I think I'm learning more now, and as I kind of look back and I see how things have progressed, I realize how not in control I actually was when I thought I was in control. But everything that's happened has happened for such a specific reason. There's been no coincidences in it, although at the time I thought, wow, this is an amazing coincidence, or how did I see you here? How come I've met you here? And kind of has all worked out that I think God needed me to meet Arend, so Arend could actually introduce me to God, if that kind of makes sense. It was like a real ground, because I didn't really know anything. I knew that there's a story of Noah, that God created earth, and Joseph and Mary with baby Jesus. That's the stories, So that was kind of, I think, the beginning and the end of my knowledge on it. And Arend used to just tell me little stories here. He still does now. So I think that was maybe God's way, that he knew I needed someone that I would respect to be able to tell me these things. Otherwise, I wouldn't listen. I was rebellious.
Together, you birthed 3 beautiful kids. Let's hear about those early family years and what eventuated from there.
Okay, well, as I said to you earlier, Arend joined the business with me, and then we continued our business for a few years. When I fell pregnant with Ashton, an important thing for me was to be mum. So I didn't want to run a business because at that stage we were actually putting in a lot of hours. We were working 18 hours a day. I wanted to actually be a mom. I didn't want to miss out my children's childhood at all. So when Ashton was born, then I stopped working, which is a good job considering I had 3 children in 3 years. So I stopped working and Arend continued in the business, and I brought up the children, and I didn't actually start working until Azara, which is my baby, until she actually went into like a play group, which she was 2 years old. So once my last one had actually gone into a play group, that's when I started working again. Kids went through preschool into primary school. We got involved. We were putting a lot of hours into the business, but we were also very fortunate because we had our own business. We took a lot of time off. So, once the kids started getting into sports at school and they had their sports events, we took a lot of time off. We've always been very involved in the kids. Obviously, that's an extremely important part for both Arend and I. We've always said that, we had children so that we could raise them, not for a school to raise them, not for any of our parents to raise them, but for us to raise them. And we were fortunate that we could. But we kind of made the decision that we would rather work at night once the kids had gone to bed and catch up for the time we'd lost during the day. But we made sure that we always saw everything that they did.
You're listening to The Story. Today, Karen Hunt is chatting with Angela Engelbrecht, who's sharing her life journey. As we heard, Angela is originally from the UK and her husband, Orend, is from South Africa. Next, we'll hear how their lives were radically altered as Orend is suddenly diagnosed with cancer. That and more when we return.